Welcome again with a few minutes with Dr. AJ. I'm Dr. April Johnson, and Financial Empowerment, Wealth and Wellness segment. And our show today, we have an exciting opportunity to interview and also meet with the intimacy of a conversation with Miss Parris Lane. She is a Grammy nominated producer and also of Abella, a voice for the voiceless. And she's multi-talented, and we are super excited to dive in and have a few moments with Miss Parris Lane. Let us go and meet the wonderful, beautiful, multi-talented Miss Parris Lane. Welcome, Miss Parris. How are you doing today?
Very, very well, thank God.
We are so honored and blessed to have you again. I say again, even though this is our first produced show, I have had the opportunity to meet you firsthand with my podcast, Glow Time with Dr. AJ. So we have been also with that time that we had together, we were able to just go over the, I would say, just the surface of getting to know you. But today we have an intimate evening to just, let's talk about Miss Parris. Like I always tell you, so when are we going to Paris?
Soon.
Absolutely. Yes. So tonight we may not be in Paris in Europe, but we are here with Miss Parris Lane, and we are super excited to share with you your business, and also, where are you from?
I'm from Annapolis, Maryland, originally. And for those of you that do not know where Annapolis, Maryland is or haven't heard of it, if you saw the movie Roots and know about Alex Haley, that's the town, the port where Kunta Kinte came in on the slave ship. Matter of fact, they just recently had a Kunta Kinte festival there. So,
awesome.
And also the home of the United States Naval Academy. So.
Absolutely. I love Annapolis. It has such a richness about it, you know, the land and its beautiful scenery. I'm born and raised from New Jersey, and so, and I lived in Delaware for over 15 years. And so Maryland was my stomping ground, and, you know, so thank you so much for sharing that. And so tell me a little bit about your business or your passion. I know it's a passion project that turned into business. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to correct something. I'm Emmy nominated.
Oh, okay. You wrote Grammy nominated. Okay.
But Grammy considered. With my book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
With my music.
Awesome.
But
there's a difference. Share with us the difference, because you know, when you say considered, that means you weren't nominated, so that means you didn't be on the ballot, correct?
Exactly. It meant that they heard what you submitted and felt that it could be, well, you know, considered for nomination. My historical fiction music audiobook, Abella, is actually the first of its kind. It's the first time a singer has not only written the story, but narrated it, and also produced and directed it and performed all of the music.
Awesome.
So it was the first of its kind. With being Grammy considered, it was Grammy considered for Best Spoken Word album. The nominees, however, were Obama, LeVar Burton, Don Cheadle.
But I just wanted to tell you, that's okay, because guess what? Even when I, encouraged you, right? And we met through social media. Which I believe is so awesome. It's how you use it. And as I shared with you, after our interview, you were considered, right?
Yes.
But think about it, that is an amazing task. You did not perform or produce this to be considered. You completed it out of a work of love and out of your heart. And to be recognized, that's just, sugar or strawberries or whatever you want on the top, it was. So don't undermine yourself, right? No. But take that moment and let's give you, woo! So yes, we are in great company. So that's amazing. And so, we have to take that moment and breathe and say, thank you, because it was a work of love. And to me, it's just as much as if you won to be considered.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So you have to, come on, give yourself a pat on the back. Double pat, double pat, double pat, double pat. There you go. That's right. That's right. Because, as an author, we have an anthology, which is Joy in the Morning. And we are #1 bestseller in 2 categories in Amazon. And, that was amazing. Right? I wrote several books before as an individual, like My Joy is Power. And I was validated when someone bought a book.
Yes.
But then for that to continue to go and they validate as a #1 bestseller, it was huge. To me, you didn't do it from a point of being celebrated, but when you are celebrated, just say thank you.
Yeah. Definitely.
We celebrate you today. That's why I was like reaching out to you because, we said we were going to continue our journey together, right? And I want to celebrate your success because when we are connected, your success, it's enough because that produces my success. And that's why we can collaborate and not be in competition.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a believer of where I only compete against myself, and that's just to make myself better at what I do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with your business and your book, so you shared that you were the only only singer to write it as well as narrate it. And with Angie BEE and Productions, she does a lot of audiobooks and she's amazing at it. And so did you write and narrate your own book?
I wrote, narrated it, did all of the singing, the background vocals. I have 26 spirituals in it. Some are traditional and some that I wrote. And I produced and directed it. All of the sounds going throughout it and everything. It sounds like everyone tells me it sounds like a movie soundtrack.
Yes. And I'm sure that is where it's going to evolve, right? So that you have so many talents, and we have you at Parole D Management.
Parole. Yeah, because my business partner name is Harold. And so,
okay. Let's get it right. Parole. Okay. She's like, I'm not paroled.
Well, everyone does that. They go, Harold.
Listen, laughter is good for the soul. So, okay. So it's Harold Management. Okay. So we thought that was going to have to talk to you. I'm like, okay. So okay. So who do you manage? So what are the type of clients that you look for? And that's how they would reach you at haroldmanagement@gmail.com.
Yes. What we have done is and we came up with this concept during COVID because a lot of musicians were out of work.
Yes.
And so what we did was we had 2 studios that we worked out of. One in San Francisco, the High Street Studios, just famous because everyone worked there.
Yes.
Is where we recorded the initial music. We have probably about 35 songs completed. that we wrote and arranged and everything. And we mixed it with James Gardner, who is Grammy nominated.
Oh my God. I love it. I watch Rockford Files, right?
But yeah, but James Gardner's produced actually Beyonce's first album.
Oh wow.
Just a lot of folks. I'm like getting this blank right now.
That's okay. So tell us about Parris.com.
Okay.
That's one of your websites.
Okay. We have a New Orleans brass band. It's the only
yes,
one
I've heard of it.
And it's the only one actually in the Bay Area that is run by someone that's really from New Orleans. And Harold, my partner, is the great grandson of Booker T. Glass, who was a bass drummer also in the brass. So he's from actually about 5 generations of New Orleans. He also make customized drums, the bass drums, and the umbrellas as well. But we have the brass band. We have a Bayou Africa, which includes the brass band as well as African drumming. Then we have our street performing bands where we get the guys from that, like for instance, we have Ted Sparks, who was Natalie Cole's drummer.
Mm-hmm.
We have a guy we call Big Willie, who played with James Brown. We had Donnie Williams, who was on America's Got Talent. These are people that, around in the Bay Area, they can't, they don't have a band or whatever and can't work in the clubs. So we take them out on the streets. And what happens
is my goodness.
Yeah. And so you get an audience from all over the world. You're just exposed to the entire world. A couple of weeks ago, we had Lady Gaga's pianist walk by, and he came and jammed for a while. So
it's the authentic, like when you really feel that people are walking by in the natural, like even like New York, right? Where they have the natural talent. So what I'm coming across from you is that you love the authenticity and the history of the music as well as the location. So you just don't want it watered down, but you're trying to preserve also the history that is in New Orleans. And I hear that that's important to you when you keep, bringing the information and the importance, right, of the legacy of those that have left and those that have basically laid the blueprint for us.
Well, because New Orleans is unique with music, in comparison to the rest of the country. It was under French territory during slavery. And so what happened was the French gave the slaves Sundays off. And so they would gather together at Congo Square. And, you also had free blacks there as well. And that's where they started creating music, because they didn't have the boundaries like the rest of the United States had. They got to keep, a lot of the African culture. And so that's why you had the birthplace of jazz there, because it came right out of that Congo Square. So they got to keep a lot. I mean, you go to some of the plantations, you'll even see where they still have the listing, the names, the African names that the enslaved people came in with. So it's so it's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. It's getting gentrified a lot now because of
I was gonna say that. And then also with the different we won't name the names of the storms, but there has been many storms that have hit the land and the gentrified, right? And so we want to, the purpose of this interview is to celebrate you, right? And to say thank you for all the contributions that you have, given to your community, but also because now you are Grammy considered and Emmy, right, nominated, is that, you know, you're sharing with the world, and that takes courage. That takes, you know, fortification. And how many times have you thought, you know, I know all of us have gone through this, like, is it worth it? All the money that you put in, is oh, let me tell the story. Let me tell it. Let me ask.
Oh my God. You know, I said to God, if you had told me that it would be this difficult, I wouldn't have done it. Abella was originally going to, there wasn't even really an Abella. I was just going to produce 2 Negro spirituals, you know, CDs, because I grew up doing spirituals. I learned spirituals as a child during the thunderstorms. You know, all the lights had to be out, the curtains were closed, we had to sit in the living room, couldn't even play piano. I mean, we had to be still, and there's the oil lantern. And I remember my great aunt saying, you know, this is when God's doing his work. Yes. And so they would do, my mom and she would do a call and response. Most of the time, my dad wasn't there because he was in the Navy, so he was away.
Okay.
So they do a call and response. My other sisters wanted soprano, alto, tenor, and me being the youngest during that period, I had to find my space wherever I could. So I knew how to improvise with, and I still to this day, it's just, I can improvise with one note, just boom. So I got my training there, plus of course the church directly across the street and the minister of music living next door and practicing. But it was just going to be a spiritual CD. And I had a meeting with Quincy Jones, and it was a lunch, a date, one-on-one, just him and I. And I started telling him about, I wanted to, you know, because he did the music to Roots, right?
Yes.
So we were on this one-on-one, and I'm telling him, you know, I like to do the story about a girl that sings, because they never talk about the music that the enslaved people brought here. It's a national treasure.
The enrichment, yes.
Exactly. And so he was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. And I still had put it on a shelf because, you know, I had done all this research in DC and all of this stuff. You know, like back then I had the slave narratives. And for those of you that do not know what the slave narratives are, it's in the late 20s and early 30s, the United States government had paid writers. It's called the Federal Writers Project, and they paid writers to go around the country to record and write about, like they interview former slaves. So, yes. And so, I mean, I still have it on cassette. That's how long I held on to it. And once I got through that, and I enrolled into Mills College, started out City College and enrolled into Mills, took a creative writing course, and then an independent study. And that's where the independent study, I really started writing the book. And then when I went to grad school and I had to share what I had previously done, and I went into character, and they were like, you need to do an audiobook. And I'm like, how the heck am I gonna do this? You know what I'm saying? Because I got all this music. And yeah, so that's how it got incorporated all in and came about, to be honest with you.
And see, the thing is, you know, and that's why your success, and I'm just gonna, you know, share with you, even when I spoke with you the first time, your success is gonna last because you've done the work, right? Most people, they want instant success. And I thank God that he did not give me instant success. I thought my journey was going to be like, you go to school, you do this, you get married, you have children, you know, I'm taking the straight, I'm doing all the precautions, right? But life happens, right? And so
exactly.
It's a journey. But I'm grateful that God didn't give you the success as you thought. And even meeting the right people does not equate success.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was the no that you needed, or maybe not now. See, sometimes we forget that the promises delayed is not denial.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So even though you met the right people in the right time, you're right there. But thank God that you're still, and I'm here to push you to keep going. I won't let you go. I won't, right? I do. And I'll find you on your Facebook and I'll give you a little encouraging word, and you're like, how did she know that? But that's what God does, right? He gives people to encourage and to be that wind beneath each other's wings, right?
Yeah.
So tell me this, how can someone get a hold of your magnificent project, and how can they support you and your vision and your endeavors?
Okay. Right now I'm still on Amazon with Abella until the end of this month, and then you'll be able to get it at our e-commerce site, which is Parold, PAROLD.store. And in a month from now, we will have also our audio and video streaming site, so that all of our music and films and the audiobook will be up there for streaming as well. And we were sort of forced into that situation because Amazon purchased the platform we were on originally. And so now I get to leave Amazon and everything's on our own platform.
Absolutely. And that's just owning your masters, right? You owning your material and also having the autonomy over where you want your projects to go. And so we are here to support wherever you are, right? You're welcome. And so what would you share with either your younger self or someone that is aspiring to follow in your footsteps? What type of advice would you give them?
I would say, you know what, if you have a dream and the seed is planted on your heart, to follow that. It's not going to be easy, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that it won't get done. Because it's one thing that Les Brown always says, is that, you know, the richest place that you'll ever visit is a cemetery. It's where all of the dreams,
the potential,
that was never fulfilled. And so you do not want to be, you do not want to be in your last moment on earth saying, I wish I could have, should have, and would have. And just go out there and do it. Take a chance.
Absolutely. Thank you for that awesome advice. And we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Hold that seat. And we're going to have another moment, a few minutes with Dr. AJ with our special guest, Miss Parris Lane. We'll be right back in a few moments. Thank you.
Tam here, reaching out to let you know a little something about Maternal Matters Favored. This is a nonprofit in which its organizational mission is to help the mission of other organizations. Go figure, right? And so we're a conduit for providers that are there in the healthcare, women reproductive sector, as well as the counseling sector dealing with mental health and or substance use. Sometimes we find that providers have these strong missions to help those in their communities, and they don't have the resources in order to carry out and fulfill these missions. We come in and we provide that resource and program oversight so they are able to help those that are in a society on low social economic levels attain a level of maternal matters peace. Won't you join us in our crusade to help those as they help others?
New from Inspired, the Alopecia Awareness Special Edition. Visit laderopress.com. 9 brave souls share their alopecia journey in this Confinement Chronicles Special Edition. Online everywhere. Hashtag I refuse to stop being me. The Alopecia Awareness Edition, encouraging testimonies birthed out of the 2020 pandemic. Stories written and compiled by Angie BEE Bartee Productions. Published by Ladero Press. Inspired. Reading for the whole person.
Thank you for rejoining us for the few minutes with Dr. AJ, Financial Empowerment, Wealth, and Wellness. Our special guest is Ms. Parris Lane. She is the dynamic Emmy-nominated, PBS Emmy-nominated, amen, singer, actress, author, educator, producer, and director of Christian animated film. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know that you really have not spoken on that, and we're very proud of your accomplishments, and we just want to, have this moment with you to encourage you and also to support you.
The children's film?
Yes.
Glory Toys. Glory Toys is a story about 7 toys stuck in a closet. They begin to protest and the shelves begin to shake, and a book just happens to fall and clunk one of the dolls in the head, and it happens to be the Bible. And they said, well, if this book is so important, why is it stuck in a closet with us collecting dust? And what happens is that they open it up and they go on a 7-day journey for the 7 days that the earth was created. And so they're singing, of course. They're all singing.
The time is singing. Everybody's singing. Forget Toy Story. This is Glory Toys. This is better than Toy Story, right? Because it's going to help you with your salvation as well. Awesome.
It teaches, because they're all ethnic. I have, the African American, Caucasian, Asian, and Hispanic characters, and then a biracial, which is a panda bear, because he's half black and half white. But and we call him Teddy instead of Teddy.
Okay.
It's just teaching the love of God. Loving one another, respecting one another's differences, and respecting and loving the earth that he gave us, and appreciating what we have. So that's what Glory Toys is all about. Because kids are not born prejudiced.
No.
It's a taught behavior.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. And so if you can teach them hate, you definitely can teach them love.
Yeah, exactly.
And my family is multi-dynamic. Okay. So, I told someone, I said, I was never born racist, because I have Indian, Caucasian, African-American, Latino. I have it all. Yeah. So it helped me to appreciate the dynamics of a family, and that everyone is unique, and I really appreciate that. And, you're sharing, because sometimes we live in a, we kind of put ourselves in a little box, right? Because you are
You feel comfortable. They feel comfortable.
Yes, and sometimes even for yourself, they may have pigeoned you as just being, a singer or a songwriter. But my job is to pull those other gifts out, right? And to shine and glisten what you have to give, because you do have a lot of gifts and talents that makes you unique, and even with, the multi businesses that you have, right? I can identify with that, right? Because this segment is, I have Dr. April Johnson Enterprises, which comes under all the conglomerations of my businesses. So, and today's segment and the last couple of segments I had, I'm also a Mary Kay consultant. So the makeup that you see is presented from Mary Kay. And, I also support my paparazzi and, the jewelry that I have, because I do believe in women entrepreneurship. And the 2 sets of jewelry that I do have, I utilize Minister Jackson, and her name is Perkily Jackson, and also Miss Angel Brown, Miss Brown Eyes Brown. So those are ones that I participate. I share that and I encourage them, but I also support them, right? And what's the greatest support is giving them to be in their business. Now I could go to Walmart, and I can, go to, different, I wear real, right? I wear real jewelry, right? From Jared's or different things, but you do things to encourage them that they're doing something positive, that you want to promote their business, right? And so for us, when you receive a free quote from Kingdom Royalty Insurance, or you mention this show, they get a free quote and they also get a free gift. And that would be conditional with also Mutual of Omaha, because I'm an advisor. So we do this so that we can show people that we appreciate their time in watching our show, and they support us through the purchasing of our goods and services, and that we produce and we also provide quality. Right? Listen to this. You are quality. For you to be nominated with the Grammys, right? You name dropped earlier, Obama, President Obama, all these different, LeVar Burton. That says a lot about you. That says a lot of your quality and how you are marketing your position to be positive in the community. So take a time to celebrate. Let's give her another round. That's right. That's right. That's right. I was waiting. So the reason why I say that is many of us, I say today, people are busy, right? And they say, oh, you're having a busy day. I says, no, I'm going to have a productive day. Number one. And also, we may all have businesses, but are you impactful? Are you effective? Right? And so how are you impacting your community, your tribe, and your world that you live in? Because you have a different world than I may live in, right? Even though we exist in the earth, but we have our own small world that we can touch, our center of influence. So how are you impacting others?
I think with Abella, especially with a lot of the musicians, I had put together, because I had 26 spirituals, and so James Gardner has suggested, I hear choirs doing your arrangements, and so he has suggested that I put a choral book together. And so I put a choral book together of all the arrangements of the spirituals. All of my musician friends who had been producing and so forth and been writing for years, none of them had taken the time out or even thought of the process of putting their music into a book, so that it leaves like a legacy of your work that your kids, grandkids, can have. And so, I did that. I because of the way Abella was, I I I did not cut any slack with the torturing and the suffering, the pain and suffering. However, with the character itself, she always had hope, because her thing was, God gave me this gift. Why did he give me this gift if I can't do anything with it? Even though she was enslaved physically, her mindset wasn't enslaved. And so it shows how a young girl grows up with her struggles and her hope and her determination to survive, one of the worst times in our history. Yeah. Absolutely. And yet still, when she got freed and she started performing all over, because she started in Maryland, and when she got to New Orleans and started performing and was sent to France, this is where she got her fame and fortune, and she would send back the money to the States to purchase the freedom for other enslaved people. Amazing. So it goes back.
Absolutely.
Back, reaching back to help. Yes. And a lot of times we forget to reach back.
That's
because
right.
We've had our villages, but our villages have all been destroyed. Every time we build up a village, it was burnt down or bombed. It just constantly destroyed. So we're still going through all this trauma. There's a lot of trauma still that we're dealing with, because even though a lot of things, they'll say, oh, that happened a long time ago. No, it's still happening today, because you still have to deal with being followed in the store and so forth and so on.
Yes.
So my with the story, even though it's talking about being enslaved, as she interviews every single person that's on that plantation, asking them where they came from, how they got there, how, and she's learning about their stories. It empowered her. So, and so we have to do that for one another. And any of the musicians that I've ever, worked with, especially back east, would tell you, when I produced shows, I made sure I would hire them so that they would have work. Because our reality as being Black musicians, this is the real deal. That we may have an all Black group, and we might have, like a white person involved in that group. And then, or two or three, because we would hire other people. But it doesn't necessarily work like that the other way around.
It's not reciprocal all the time.
And I know that for a fact. Now, as a singer, I got away with a lot of things, because especially being on the East Coast, because I was in what you call the Jewish circuit. So I did the Jewish bar mitzvahs and weddings and so forth. And their concept was that you didn't have a good band unless you had a Black singer up front.
Okay.
So I had a little more doors open in that way. But in my hometown, I still, people say the glass ceiling. I had a glass ceiling plus a brick wall to get through a lot of places.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
by the grace of God, right? And you have to and the thing is, I know personally, right? Because, I was in banking for 25 years. I thank God, because I really, if you want to say, I broke through the chains of that. And I was a vice president and financial center manager. And so that's what segued me. And I would always try to, diversify our institution by hiring, the best of the diverseness, not just saying I'm going to hire, someone of color, but if you were the best candidate, whether you were Caucasian or of, minority, I wanted the best. And if you presented yourself the best and it was all things equal, right? then you have to say who is going to give the job in the community, because we have to represent our community, right? And so they represented me. So who would I want to represent me? And I have hired every language, every color. And that helped me realize that, discrimination is a choice.
Yes.
It is. And who you hire is really based on how you see your output in the world. And I'm always the one that's going to be the 1 out of the 10 to come back and say thank you, but not just with my words, but with my deeds, right? And as God has opened up the doors for me of wisdom and understanding, and this is my way of coming back and reaching back to you to say thank you for all the opportunities that you have opened up, and to persevere. Don't let anyone stop you from your dreams and from the visions that God has given you. Although you may write it and it may tarry, right? But there will be someone that will run with it. But how will they run if you don't write it? What is writing? A book, an audio book, right? Narrating it, putting it down, the vision. And so, I just want to encourage our audience and everyone that, will view this segment, is that it's never too late to start.
Oh, no, it's never. I'm in San Francisco where you have 90-year-old people like going up hills and riding bikes. It's like, whoa!
That's a shame, don't they?
Together.
Shame. Yes. And I live, we're in Florida, and I'm telling you, it just opened my eyes. And my mom, she passed in 2007. And I remember when I came here and I began to say, Mom, I wish you'd have took better care of yourself. Like, I didn't realize that we can live longevity of life. Yeah. Okay. And my mom's mom, she passed away, I think at 40 almost. And so when my mom passed 40, she thought she had arrived. Yeah. So she lived to 69 years of age. So she felt as though that was long. But living here, we have 85, 87-year-olds that are still living life. Yeah. But it all has to do with your mentality, has to do with your mental health, your spiritual health, as you keep saying about the spirituals, right? And so financial empowerment, wealth, and wellness, you fit in on all aspects, right? You might not have all the finances, but you can empower someone with the gifts, just like Miss Abella, right? She empowered others, and by hearing others' stories, it motivated her. And even though that's a fictional character that you have created, or it could be based on, loosely based on history, but we can do that today. And that's what we've done today. We are empowering each other, motivating each other to continue on our journey, right, to wellness and wealth. It will pay off. It may not pay off today, but I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you do. As long as you keep your heart pure, to knowing that you're doing it out of gifts of love and the gift to humanity. You are giving back for generations to come. You might not say thank you now, right? Nobody might not pat you on the back now, but there's generations that are going to come and say thank you for sharing Abella's story. Thank you for giving us new history to appreciate. And thank New Orleans, right? To say, we appreciate all the work that you're doing. So before we end this segment, is there something you would like to add? And how has a few minutes with Dr. AJ empowered and impacted your life?
Well, it's always good, no matter what you're doing, to have someone speak positive in your life. And, it validates what you do. And that is important. That is so important. It's just like I said with Quincy Jones, he saw in me more than what I could see in me myself, because I only saw me as here and he saw me as there. And so it inspired me to do more. And that's what you have just done as well. Because we all need to leave a legacy for our family. The legacy is important to let them know, because when kids see that, they go, oh, I can do that. My mom, my grandma, my great grandma, great, this is what she or he did, or the great grandfather, this is what they did. If they could do it during their time, which was much worse than our time, then I should be able to do it by any means necessary.
Absolutely. And also for your new friends and sisterhoods and brotherhoods, we might not be connected through the natural bloodline, but we are the spiritual bloodline that we are connected. And so it's going to be much of a blessing. Think about it when we first had our podcast, and then that was a first interview, and then you got considered how much greater things that the Lord has in store for us, right? And so we continue to give back to our community. And whenever you have any efforts or any initiatives, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, because we want to support you, we encourage you, and we also want to celebrate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, you're so welcome. It's my pleasure. Until the next time we see each other, may the blessings of the Lord make it thee rich and add no sorrow.
You can see it. You can be it.
Thank you.